Ayomide here, and guess what? We're back for more incredible journeys into the lives of everyday heroes on the World Without People podcast. Dive into more vibrant stories, shared experiences, and mind blowing perspectives with me in season 2. New faces, new stories, but the same old vibe. So, whether you're a seasoned listener or just stumbling upon this oasis of humanity, welcome. Grab your favorite beverage and join the adventure. Let's celebrate the beauty of the world, one remarkable story at a time. Welcome, everybody. My name is Ayomide, and this is season 2 of the World Without People podcast. I'm so excited, and I'm excited to have my guest, Morolayo David Ajayi. Oh my gosh, I was going to call you your name because I'm so used to it. I've known you for so long.
That's the one you're used to, so it's allowed.
Seriously, I didn't even officially change it on my phone. So, like, it is what it is.
I didn't change it on my phone too.
Please don't let bro hear you, Sha. I wasn't there. But I'm so excited about this. We are going to be talking
Mhm.
about something really exciting, at least for me, anyways, maybe because I know the story. But I also don't know the day to day of the story, which is one of the things I love about what I do. Sometimes it's like you know things, but you don't really know what transpired. So I'm happy to have you here, Marala. You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure to be here to talk to you.
Awesome.
I don't even know where this is going, but I mean, I know you're taking me to safe places.
Always,
So
always. I
yeah,
always tell people that it's always safe. We're really not
Mhm.
here trying to be, I don't know, some of these podcasts I know people talk about, like, spreading rumors or things like that. No, really just here to encourage other people who listen to this to, be resilient in this case,
Yeah,
in this story that we're going to be talking about today. But first, a little intro. We went to high school
sure.
together. Malaya is officially my senior, so if I start saying sis, just know that's why, because I'm very
By
respectful.
1 year, really.
I just know that I just know you're going to hit 40 before me. That's all I know. so,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so yeah, my elder. but no. And I always say I don't know that I spoke to a lot of people in high school, to be fair. Even my classmates, a lot of us became friends after the fact. I
Yeah.
was in school, but I was just a buddy. And we happened to be in the same state when we finally moved here, which was Michigan. And then that was it. It was like you don't
Yeah.
know many people anyways, and then you become friends, and the rest they say is history. And not only that, we did our masters together, and we didn't even, I don't think we planned it. Like, I don't think I knew that was the school you were going to. At least I don't think. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think before we started the program, I actually think we did know we are going to end up being in the same school, but I don't think it was a plan that we had together. Like, oh, I'm going to do public health. You're going to do public health. We're going to the same school. Do you get it?
Right.
But like, I think eventually along the line we found out,
Yeah.
especially because I was moving. So I had asked, oh, what was Toledo like? And then the conversation might have just come up at that time.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't really remember the details to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, but nice to at least have you there because I mean,
Right.
yeah,
But no, I was going to say that you were totally my dance partner as well. Marilla and I were dance partners for the longest time. Oh my gosh, I do miss
yep,
that. It's funny because I tell people I enjoyed my youth. I enjoyed it. And it was because I had safe
yeah,
people I could go out with. Now, people talk about clubs, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, I don't even know the last time I've been to a club. And that's because I can't
mhm,
go and dance with the people that I could dance with. Like, just really have fun. I don't know. We had fun.
yeah. We did. Let's just leave it there because if we go too much in the detail, we might get carried away and not get started on what today is about.
Right,
But yeah,
and my
good
travel
times
partner as
definitely.
well too. We traveled a bit.
Yeah,
Road trips were like our thing, so definitely good
yeah,
times. We lived not too far from each other as well. So, holidays, all of that. It really was very helpful to have someone finally be, someone I knew. I think it was helpful that it was because I knew you from my past, as opposed to people that I
Yeah.
met here. I met a lot of people, we're still good friends till today. But I think there was something about that, knowing you before and then taking that on into basically our master's program. Anyways, I say all of that to say that Morolayo then went on to, after her master. So, we skipped the undergrad part. We did masters
Yeah.
together. And this was your second masters, yes?
No, 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 no.
Okay,
Just
okay.
one.
Just the one. Okay, I
I
don't know.
don't
I
like
thought,
doing that much. I only have just one master's.
I don't know. I thought you did
Yeah.
a master's program in Atlanta. But,
No, 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 no.
okay, so you're going to tell us all of the story because then she finishes school with a master's degree and then goes back to start school all over again. So tell us a little bit about all of that. So start with undergrad and then masters and then why you went to go start school all over again. And the degree, obviously.
Okay. If I said I didn't get to tell this story like a million times, I'll be lying because I mean, I feel like I've spent the major part of my life in school.
Yeah.
I would like to liken myself to, I don't know if you remember that show, Girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
and I've forgotten her name now, but her real name is something White. I've
Right. The
forgotten her
darker
character's
one.
name.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
she was literally in school like the entire time everybody else was doing something with their lives.
Oh, yeah.
And I
The lighter
remember one of
skin
our
one,
mutual
actually.
friends,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember one of our mutual friends, essay saying, yeah, so we're like, that's you. And at that time, I'd not even gone past just, I think, bachelor's or something. So for her to have even said that, I don't know what she saw. Do you
Right.
get? So in fact, that I think ended up being my life because I feel like I've been in one institution after the other since I was born.
Mm.
And the journey has been very, very long, but one that I have just realized that, at every stage, I try to just learn from the experiences and then also just align and apply myself to where I want to be. So let's go back a few years ago, started undergrad. Of course, like many young aspirants at the time that wanted to go to medical school, I did pre med, majored in biology. And then after that, of course, the reality of being an international student in the United States trying to go for medical school, I don't really have to break down all the challenges to you. You're very aware of them. But, in as much as that came up, I also was lucky enough to have had the alternative, which was to get a master's in public health. So, and I remember when we were doing the masters in public health. I don't remember if you have any recollection about this. I remember we used to say that the other people that were professionals and that were coming back into the master's program kind of had a grasp of what was going on. I think for us it was just more like we were coming from undergrad straight into masters, no professional experience whatsoever. So it was
Mm-hmm.
pretty much like a lot of gray areas, couldn't really marry a lot of things together, especially when, of course, my aspiration at the time was to go to medical school, but because it was a good alternative at the time.
Right.
So then after that, after masters in public health, of course, we graduated into the great recession at the
Mm.
time when it
Right.
was very difficult to get jobs and all of
Right.
that. So I remember then I just packed up my bag one day and I was like, you know what, I'm done with Ohio. Let's just go see what's out there in like
Mm-hmm.
everywhere in America until I find a good job. So I remember going like from state to state in my little Nissan then, and I think I started off with Delaware. Of course, I don't know who goes from Ohio to Delaware. It's like fry pan to fire. But
Exactly. No jobs.
did that, and then from there I went to California for a bit, and then went to Texas. And then after Texas, finally ended up in Atlanta.
Right.
I think for me, it was in Atlanta that I really wanted Atlanta to work. I really, really
Mm.
wanted it to work. I remember going to the school then, Emory University, where
Right.
I'd always dreamed that I would, go back to medical school. And I would just walk around the campus and, pray about it. But, man proposes and, God
Mm-hmm.
does what's best.
Right.
So I remember that year I wrote the MCAT exams, and I wrote it on the 5th, and I think I bought my plane tickets to Nigeria for the 6th of September. So
Mm.
at the time the plan was just to move back home, do my NYC, and then see what happens from there. I don't think it was a complete It wasn't planned for me to stay in Nigeria at the time.
Right.
So of course, a lot of events took over, and then few years after that, because we're talking now about, how I got to go back again to school.
Right.
Let me just to that part. So a few years after I moved back, I think I moved back in 2010, and then I got admission to College of Medicine in 2013, but we didn't start lectures officially until 2014.
Mm,
So again, a lot of people thought I was crazy. Like,
mm,
how do you go from doing a bachelor's, a master's, and then now you're going back again to get like a, because it's a bachelor's here. So like,
right.
how do you go back to doing that? And for me, it was just always in the back of my head that there was nothing I
Mm,
felt I would ever be fulfilled doing if I wasn't a medical doctor. It was
mm,
consistently nagging in the back of my head. Like I would remember being in job interviews and they will ask you what's your long term and your short term goals. And I'll give them the short term, which pretty much fits into their organization, and then I'll just say something really off long term. I'll be like, but in long term, I hope to be a medical doctor. And of course they will look at me crazy, like, does this one know why she's here? But I mean, I think the power of the tongue and the power of the
right.
mind kind of keeps you going in that regard. So luckily for me, I was able to start medicine in Lagos State University College of Medicine, like I explained earlier. And again, no long strikes per se. So in due time, I was done. As soon as I was done, I mean, you can imagine I was already old enough to know exactly what I wanted to do. So there was no wasting of any time. Immediately
Mm,
as I was done, I applied for residency, and the rest is history. Of course, I did my house job in between, and then eventually went back for residency. So yeah, so that's where we are now. Still learning, still in an institution, now in Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. But of course, it's a different ball game now. So yeah.
so I should have said correctly, Dr. Morolayo David
Uh,
Ajayi, because that is such an impressive story. I know you kind of just said it very quickly, and I still want you to
yeah,
talk about maybe some of those challenges, like coming back here, like, getting married, raising children, through all of that. I definitely want you to talk about that because, I mean, it's one thing to know that that's the one thing that you feel like is going to have fulfilled you. And maybe, sometimes I always say, like, maybe I shouldn't have pursued the PhD because it's like, okay, yes, you knew you wanted it, but like, were all these challenges worth it? Like, would it have been easier to pivot a little bit earlier into something else that you could have found out then to be more fulfilling? But you're saying for you, that was not the case. You didn't think that pivoting into anything else, or maybe another way to say it is you didn't find anything else that you found fulfilling, because I'm assuming that you worked throughout, or you were doing
yeah,
something else while you were
mhm,
still waiting to start medical school.
yeah. So yeah, definitely. I did work in a couple of what would you call them now? Organizations at the time. It was even at one of the jobs that I realized that I'd gotten admission one day at work.
Mm.
So, but how am I now? I'm trying to understand the question. How did family fit into all of this?
No,
I
no.
think
I
it's
said we'll talk about challenges later, but I
okay.
was
We'll talk
saying
about
that,
okay, okay,
yeah, the idea
yeah,
of like not finding anything else, like not
yeah.
pivoting, like, is it okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, it just I don't know, maybe it's just something that was just I don't know how to explain it to you, Buki. I really wish I could, but I just couldn't find myself doing anything but being a medical doctor. Like, I tried a couple of things. I worked in, I think, two or three different organizations at the time, and one of them I was even an operations manager, where the managing director was really trying to push me to be interested in the projects that were ongoing at the time. But it just didn't jive. I would be
Mm,
at work, I could literally go online and just read up on different medical conditions and just be intrigued by that, or even just anatomy. I
mm,
found very interesting. So it's like, for me, it just always boiled down to the fact that it was medicine or nothing. It
mm,
was just that.
mm,
And I'm glad I had that clarity early enough. And I'm also glad that I had the opportunity to, pursue that path.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, would you advise someone who's young and again, okay, so for example, we talked about the challenges in getting it in America as an international student. We thank God, like 10 years, 20 years down the line, there seem to be better opportunities for others. But like
Of
at the
course.
time, you were right. We did not, that was why I didn't go to medical school
Yeah.
because international student fees, all of that, there was no opportunity. But you
Hmm.
were lucky enough to now and then go to Nigeria. So again, if say there's somebody here in America who's still in that same boat, like financially, because of everything happening, would you then say do it the other way? Like, yes, you have the opportunity in America to get your undergrad, get your masters, but then be willing to go to another country where it will be easier to just get the degree. Like, do you think that is quote unquote worth it as opposed to again exploring something else?
Okay.
If you had to advise a young person.
If I had to advise, if I had to advise anybody, I'll just say follow your instincts and follow your path. Because I mean, we're all on a different path, but I mean, it worked
Mm,
for me. Well, I think
mm,
it did. And it's so funny because 2, 3 years ago, there was someone else with the same exact profile as I
mm,
have. And she reached out to me and said, I would like to come to Lasocom for medical school. So she
mm,
also trained in the US, did an undergrad, did a master's.
mm,
Fortunately for her, because I'm not going to say unfortunately, but fortunately for her, she got married and her husband was based in Nigeria. So she had to move back to Nigeria.
mm,
So, and of course, she still wanted to go to medical school. So she said, okay, I heard you did this. I would like to try it. And I'm like, whoa. Like for me, because I always thought I was an anomaly. But
mm,
now somebody else is saying, I want to be an anomaly just like you. So then she also got admission last 2 years, I think. Yeah, she's been in the program for I think 2 years now. And hopefully of course, it comes with a lot of challenges. I mean, moving back from the US to Nigeria, the system is very different in terms
mm,
of administrative functions. The
right.
academic function as well, but you can still cope, but administrative functions are so different. A lot of things are still paper based and still very different from how we were brought up academically over there. So it's a different terrain, but I think once you open your mind to being able to morph into adaptation in any situation you find yourself, then you'll be fine. It's when you refuse to adjust to change that you might have some challenges. So nowadays, yes, in the US, it's easier for international students, immigrants to get admission into medical school as opposed to our time, which
Right.
I don't know if you remember, it was like 1% for
Yeah, no,
international
it was, yeah. I
students
mean,
go
people
to
used to
medical.
go to the
It was,
Caribbeans, if you
yeah,
remember.
money
Yeah,
was a big deal, oh, don't get me
yeah,
wrong. But
yeah,
to even get admission was
yeah,
already a very slim chance.
yeah, yeah,
So, and that was when people were going to the Caribbeans. Now, I can't speak for the Caribbeans because I didn't go to the Caribbeans, but of course,
right.
I know a lot of people that that went to medical school there and they have since moved back to the US to, specialize and things like that. So, I mean, I think that's also another good option. Now, I wouldn't say that I would now go around and start advertising that, oh,
Mm.
if you are having a challenge, come back to Nigeria because Nigeria too is a challenge. Do you understand? So it's
Right.
a function of, I mean, just weigh all your options and see if, this path that I have taken would work for you. It might not work for the next person, but I mean, like I said, for me, I was just ready to take up on whatever challenge that, was going to be at my, doorstep. But luckily for me, like I said, the challenge wasn't even as bad as I thought.
Hmm.
So, yes, I think what I did was I made my expectations so low that at the end of the day, it wasn't bad at all,
Yeah.
to be very honest. My experience in Lasocom was fantastic. I met a lot of great people, great lecturers, great teachers. Like I said, the academics was fantastic. Where I felt I always had an issue was when it had to do with administrative things like why would I have to bring a form that I've already given to you in 200 level, back to you again in 500 level in paper form.
Fine.
Like, don't you have? You get, so that was where I would always get upset. But like every other thing, I was totally okay with. So, I mean, yeah, if people have that opportunity, sure, why not go for it? But make sure you go to an institution that is also sound, not just,
Mm.
I won't market any other institution apart from mine, because
Awesome.
that's where I have the experience. Yeah.
But I also think, to your point though, about not marketing or advertising it, I think it might not
Yeah.
necessarily also be a bad idea, because I know countries like Canada and, some of these other countries are really looking for medical people, right? They are looking for people who are, experts in this and are willing to even pay you to move. And you'll be surprised, especially things like primary care, even in America, they're still struggling with people who want to go to, who want to specialize in primary care, because everybody wants to, become a surgeon. And I can't blame them, because, school fees are expensive over here, right? So
Of course.
it might not necessarily even be a bad idea. And I think sometimes, I think what this shows me is that we limit ourselves sometimes by location, I guess, is
Of
what I'm
course.
trying to say. And what would you
Mm,
say?
I think I agree, but you know, it almost seems like I'm always dodging, dodging the chance to speak for a large population. I always like to
Mm,
speak for myself.
mm,
Um, yeah, I think life for me, I realized pretty early not to limit myself in
mm,
terms of where the opportunities will come from. It can come from anywhere. The
right.
fact that I even had the opportunity to go to the US to study, it was an opportunity. It wasn't, I mean, we know how our parents struggled to financially cater for us while we were there. So
Mm,
if an opportunity comes up and it's in any location or any part of the world, as long as it's fitting to my person at that time, I was willing to take it. So
right.
for me, it was Nigeria at the time. If it was Canada, the way they're receptive now and everybody's like, oh, we're opening all our doors, coming, of course, I probably would have gone that route. But at that time, it was an opportunity that I wasn't going to pass on because of location. I don't know if
Okay.
that answers your
Yeah,
question.
no, that makes sense. I mean, I think it's about weighing what it is, what you have, because to your point, I actually did not pay attention to the fact that 2008 really was
Mhm.
that recession where all the banks were,
Oh, yeah.
having all of those
We had
issues.
it tough.
And I need to give myself more grace. Like, I never,
Yeah.
you saying that actually put all of these things in perspective, because I give myself a hard time of, oh, maybe I should have, found
Mhm.
better jobs then, and it wouldn't have taken me this long to get to where I, where I've gotten to, thank God. But like, I actually didn't put that into a factor.
Mhm.
I didn't put the economics of the world. Like, I can only control certain things. I can't
Yeah,
control the economics of the world. And I
of
think
course.
it's important for people to kind of realize that, like, don't just look at you, right, in making these decisions, right? Put it all on the table, think about what's happening in society right now. And to the point, right, it could then also make the decision the other way, right? Because again, if you realize that Nigeria now, as we're going to talk about, is maybe not where you
Hmm.
can do this. It's one thing if your husband you're already there for some reason or whatever,
Mhm.
but everybody else is jackbuying because Nigeria
Yeah.
now is not the same, right? It's a conversation to have, right? Other than a spiritual thing of knowing that, okay, maybe God has told you to stay here. It's a
Mhm.
conversation to have, which is something, you and I are also going to talk about now, because given the challenges of Nigeria now and everybody jackpotting, if think about it, if this was now and you had to make that decision, would you have still made that decision?
Of course not. With
I'm just
$1 to 1,000 and what 1,100 or something ridiculous like
mm-hmm.
that. I mean, that would have been very scary. Like,
Mm,
what am I looking for, basically? But I think since I've moved back now for a very long time. In fact, I've moved back now for a period longer than I actually lived in the
Stay
States.
there. Hmm.
So in fact, I've dumped that that it's people like you that
DNA,
remind me of that part of my life. You
right?
understand? So I've acclimatized fully to the Nigerian
Back.
environment. So yes, things are challenging, but
Mm,
if you look at it too, things are challenging everywhere globally.
back.
Post COVID, everybody is just dealing with the financial crisis.
Mm,
Now, I think I've regularized my life to fit into my environment. I don't
right.
look at my life as a function of if I were in the States. Do you
Mm,
understand? I look at it,
mm-hmm.
I'm in Nigeria. What can I do to make my life bearable? And not just
Right.
my life, my family.
Right.
Okay. I would not deny the fact that I have the most incredible social support ever.
Mm,
At least you've met the
yeah.
love of my life. So, of course, we've played with the idea of relocating a few times. I think you're also very aware of that.
Right.
But we've just never found that right moment.
Right.
I think that's what I'll call it, where things just click and we're like, okay, yes, we're definitely moving out. I just feel like the moment we decide we're moving, something happens here that keeps us a bit longer.
Mm,
Okay. And it's not something negative, usually it's
right.
something positive or something that we can live with.
Right.
So, and that has been the trend, I think, since 2019. There's always just something that just keeps us here one day extra.
Mm,
So, yeah, of course, being a medical doctor now is marketable, like you said, across
right.
the globe. And in fact, it's for most of us that are staying back, the brain drain it's affected us in a very, very stressful way. In the
Mm,
sense that now workload is like 10 times what it used to be. And
mm,
every day you go to work, you're just worried that, oh, it's even going to get worse.
right.
Because now you have those where doctors every month, dozens are leaving.
Mm,
So, of course, the people that are staying back are the ones bearing the burn. In all of this, I would like to think that I'm still very lucky. The specialization I'm doing, which is radiology, it doesn't have anything to do with direct patient care.
right.
So I can't measure my burnout to those who are involved. Maybe
Mm,
if I were on the clinical side of things, I probably would have left.
right.
But with radiology, all you're doing is reporting cases and things like that. So it still makes it somewhat bearable. The workload is there, don't get me wrong.
Right.
And the pay does not even, it doesn't measure up the amount of work we do, but
Right.
it's still bearable.
Right.
And then the fact that I am able to do my residency program and hopefully in the next few years become a consultant is one of the things that still keep me going.
Right.
If I wanted to move out of the country right now, it's pretty much like, when I moved back home, it was a journey to
Right.
get to now. So if I move back again, it's like I
Starting
want to
again.
start that journey again. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to turn to Ajala journey up and down. I don't know, like just journey every time. So I've been lucky enough to be able to carve out what I want to do for the next couple of years. And they're very fitting to my environment and where I am right now. And
Mm,
to top it off, like I said, there's the social support, which also keeps me going.
right.
So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm still here and
Yeah.
why I'm not even considering Japa anytime soon.
Yeah.
But you never know. In the next 2 years, Bookie, we might just be right next to each other, and I'll be like, "Yo, let's go have dinner tonight."
Well, I always want to move back, so I'm kind of probably one of the weirdest Nigerians in that sense. I definitely don't have a problem with moving back to Nigeria in the right circumstances. Like you said, doing what you're doing that is fulfilling, having the right social support. I was talking to somebody about this idea of social network because I've been here for so long. but I've always had friends everywhere. My social network is my phone. My social network is on Instagram. I do not need to be, in Jersey to have a social network because, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of my friends around me. I don't have a lot of my friends living around me. So I'm kind of already used to that. But, so let's talk a little bit about that social support because through all of this, you've had two kids, married, all of that. I mean, there's just the fact that you're a woman. You have things and like a little bit different than a man will have in taking care of the home, right? So can you just talk through how all your support, because I'm sure it's not just your immediate family too, whether it's friends, parents, all of that, how that kind of helped also make the journey easier, if anything at all, or at least give you the support to continue to stay, because I can imagine that there were times you thought, what were you doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think let me start with the scenario. You remember where I lived when I was in Ohio, Terrace View?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's, I remember clearly that in that building, I didn't know a single soul. Like, I
Right.
didn't know what my neighbors looked like.
Mm-hmm.
None. I'd never seen them face to face. It was almost like we used to, let me say it in Yoruba, man shorawa, daddy. Because I would never run into one of them on the staircase or anything like
Mhm.
that. So, and I remember how lonely many
Mm.
times I would be. Like,
Mm.
sometimes you'd even make dinner and you just won't feel like eating because you're like, all this food and you're just going to eat by yourself. And,
Mhm.
for me, that was just, it was off putting. But moving back home, one of the things that made it very attractive was the fact that my family was still here, my
Right.
siblings, my parents, everybody. And then, few months after I moved back, I had my first child,
Right.
and it was a very difficult period. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, it was one of those times that I really did appreciate the fact that social support meant the world. Battled a little bit with what's it called now? The postpartum
Madam
depression.
depression.
Yeah,
Mm.
I did. I had
Mm.
that for a little bit. And then
Mm.
I remember that what really cured it was when my family came around. It
Mm.
was a major relief. People don't know how difficult it is to be a first time mom.
Mm.
Um, it's one of the hardest things ever.
Mm.
But again, I was lucky enough to have them support me through that. And then, fast forward to when I had my second child, I had my mother in law, my mom, everybody was just ready to just come in and help.
Right.
Yes. So, and then I was already in medical school, by the way, when I
Right.
had my son. And I remember that there were times when he was just born that I would have to leave home for a long period of time.
Mm.
But it never made me feel like I wasn't a good mom or like that I wasn't a good enough mom to my kids because they just pretty much just stepped in and took over. I mean, my sisters, everybody was just fantastic. So, and sometimes I would then try to play a scenario where, oh, what if I was in the US and I had to go
Mm.
through this? Would I have survived? Now, that's not to now discredit women who have done that. In fact, when I
Right.
see, I give them like serious
Yeah.
mojuba, as in like
Yeah.
I give them a lot of credit because I know how difficult that period can be.
Mm.
So I just appreciate the fact that I had that support. I think people would usually say that God gives you the battles that you can
Mm.
handle.
Mm.
I think for me, he already knew I couldn't handle being a mom in the US by myself. So he just said, you just move back and get all the pampering that you can get, or
Mhm.
else you will lose your shit. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. You're good. We say shit on here.
Okay. So,
Just
uh,
shit though. We don't go past that.
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I promise it won't drop again.
It's
So,
okay.
yeah, but those periods were also very hard,
Mm.
being a mom in school. I remember being pregnant with my son and going for classes. And then, people will always look at you like, is she supposed to be here? Why is she pregnant? And then
Mm.
I even remember at the time, the school wanted to even pass like a law or something. I can't remember a policy that women couldn't be pregnant. Yeah, it was
Oh,
ridiculous.
hell no.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But I don't think that ever played out. But it
Right.
was, so you get, just having that, it makes you a bit insecure sometimes when
Right.
you're going to your classes and you just want to try and hide it. And then eventually, when you're so big and you can't hide it, what do? You'll be running around with your big belly. I remember my first exam, like major exam in medical school. I wrote it while I was like 7 months pregnant. So, and that was, I mean, it was challenging, but hey, by God's grace, we were able to overcome. So, but having that support is a major, major thing. I really wish a lot of women across the globe would get that kind of support, especially
Mm.
when they're going through those stages in life. You know,
Mm.
when they say it takes a village, it does,
Yeah.
it really, really takes a village to get a
Mm.
lot of things done, especially in terms of raising children. It's for one person to do alone is not easy. So I commend a lot of people that are doing that right now, and I just pray that God will just make it easy for every one of us. That's pretty much it for me. Yeah.
Mm. And talk a little bit about your husband's support with that as well, because again, like how many? I mean, I'm not disparaging Nigerian men, but
Yeah.
we all know it's true. That whole idea of,
Oh, his
again, you
choice.
are.
He doesn't have any choice. My
I
husband
love
is
it.
using me as investment. So
I
it has to be supportive.
love it. No, that's
No,
awesome.
but no, I was lucky, I guess. I was really
Mm.
lucky. Sometimes I always wonder, like, because, I mean, it wasn't planned
Mm.
per se that we were going to end up being together. There were lots, I
Mm.
mean, of course, you're aware of the stories, the
Mhm.
backstories, and all that.
Mhm.
But eventually, I guess it was my person. It was written to be my person, and he's been extremely supportive every step of the way. He's been super, super supportive. Many times I wouldn't come home, especially during the exam periods, and I can be
Mhm.
very, very cranky and
Mm.
annoying during the exam periods. I am the most annoying person. Let me just say that. Any board exams I have, just for like 2 months, just stay clear, because that's when you'll see another side of me.
Mm.
Because I mean, I try to give my exams 100% because
Right.
I feel like I've sacrificed so much that I don't want any reason to have to retake any exam. So I kind of go hard during those periods, and he understands. Like he's just staying there. He's just in the background, just being supportive. Whatever I need, overfeeding me, which I don't need, but but anything just to make my life easy, he does
Mm.
that. So yeah, I really appreciate him for that.
Shout out to great husbands. I think it's always that, and that's one thing I want to be able to do on here. It's like shout out to great spouses, because I think we're in a generation where, we hear so much of the bad that, I think it's important that we talk about the good. So shout out to
Mm.
great husbands. My love to him, by the way. I think I heard him trying to help you set up.
Yeah, I was trying. So that's how nice he is. Like trying to help me set up, make sure that this goes smoothly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I deserve that because I'm not that nice.
Well, you are to the people you care about. I've benefited from it, so I know. But he's also an Arsenal fan, so we friends.
Oh, please don't get started.
Five
Please.
zero yesterday. I
I'm
just
very
wanted to
upset
know.
that the video didn't work because I wore this jersey just to piss you off.
I know. I saw it. I was gonna mention it, but like you said, the radio didn't. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, no, that's awesome. But and I know again, we're not going into some of these details. You guys can always I can share her details. You can always reach out to Morolayo if you want to know the specifics of some of the challenges one could possibly face in going to school in Nigeria. I unfortunately or fortunately never went to school in Nigeria, so I know the system. I don't know the system at all, I should say. But I think for me, you mentioned something around brain drain. And I get it. I get it on both sides. I get it on the side of going away to go and make a life for your family, or make things better for your family. And I get it from the idea that we're losing so much in Nigeria. And so I know, you know, part of what we're called to do is sometimes vegan on ourselves. And I guess my challenge to your in the form of a question is, how do we fix this brain drain, at least in Nigeria?
Ah,
Like, is there a
can't
way
fix
we
it,
can, okay, maybe another way to say it is, what are the
Yeah.
things that we could then do to encourage people, the young people now, to go into medical school
Ah,
in Nigeria?
that is a tough question.
Mm,
If there are some challenges that you as a human being you can't fix by yourself, or
mm,
you can only have opinions about them. But
right,
fixing might be a bit
right,
difficult.
right.
So the beauty about brain drain is that with every brain drain that has occurred in the history of mankind, there's always brain gain.
Mm,
It's inevitable. It's going to
mm-hmm,
happen. It happened
mm-hmm,
during our time. I hope you know.
mm, mm,
Around our time, a lot of people left the country. Maybe not
mm-hmm.
as many as they are now,
Right now.
but a lot of people came back too.
Mm,
So, and we might not see brain gain for another decade, or or a little bit more than that. But I guess this is just a part of humanity that just has to happen.
mm,
Except somehow miraculously the economy is fixed. Not even
mm.
just the economy. It's more than that. I think ah this is a tough question, honestly. But okay, so I think what I would just advise is that people shouldn't forget where they're from.
Mm,
Period. Like, don't
mm,
forget that this same country that you're living, especially for medical doctors. Now, I'm not speaking for other professionals. A lot of medical doctors that are leaving the country right now were trained they were trained in this country with less than $1,000 for the
mm,
entirety of their program. I hope you know
mm,
that.
mm,
And now they're migrating to countries where, of course, they'll be getting paid way
mm,
more. Do you get?
mm.
So my point is this: the system has trained you. Yes, it hasn't enabled you to stay back, but it has trained you to be able to become this person that is now an asset globally.
Right,
Now, if you find yourself in a position where you're able to do things outside of the country, also remember that you can also give back in some
right.
form. Not
Yeah.
necessarily give back financially, give back in terms of knowledge, exchange of skills, and things like that. Do you understand? And then, a lot of people that left too, you left your parents here. I mean,
Mm.
somebody has to take care of them.
Hallelujah.
So, exactly. So, and I think we owe it to ourselves to empower the people that are still back home to be able to deliver care to those who are going to need it. Again, it's
Amen.
yeah, but the majority of it, if there's going to be some form of change, would come from more of a political will
Mm.
to keep people in the country.
Right.
It might be too difficult for us as individuals to be able to achieve that. But if the government is able to realize that the health sector, and I hate that I'm not that I hate, I find it a bit impartial to just be speaking for the health sector, because a lot of sectors are very, very important. But I
Right.
can only speak for the health sector because that's where I'm at, right?
Yeah. Right.
The value of life is no
Yeah.
value.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you invest on life, your economy would always go up. I
Right.
think that's one of the things that advanced countries have realized.
Yeah.
And when your economy goes up, value of life would also go up.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's a cycle.
Right.
But right now, we don't value life.
Mm.
So obviously, our economy is not going anywhere.
Right.
We don't value life is why people are leaving every
Right.
day. So until the government realized, as in a place emphasis on the fact that yes, this health sector has to be enabled so that people can enabling rather so that
Right.
people can function at the capacity that they are trained to function. Till then, I don't think we're going to be able to retain or keep anybody in this country that would want to sort out for greener pastures. You can't.
Mm.
Human beings are going to be human beings. They're going to want to survive. That's
Right.
just our natural instinct. So I think that's pretty much about it. But I mean, if you get the chance to go and do something better with your life, also remember that you should just give a little bit, even if it's 1%. That one
Right.
percent can make a very, very huge change. And I think that's one of the things that I try to do now is to what I've learned when I was in the US, those little things that I've learned that I didn't even know that they were important. I try as much as possible to impart it on what I'm doing here. Little things like punctuality, you know,
Mm,
yeah,
mm,
Americans never played with that. If you're supposed to
mm,
be somewhere at 8 o'clock, you better be there at 8 o'clock. So
mhm.
when I go to work too, I still go to work
Yeah,
at 8 o'clock. And
yeah.
you will know that somebody else is watching you and trying to emulate that. And
Mm.
you find that even little things like that can be progressive in our environment.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it flows really nicely into what I was going to ask you about, which was this new position that you are as a president secretary of something with Lasut. Tell us a little bit about that. Because I think it portrays the fact that we could probably do more with even like reaching out to some of those alumni and things like that could maybe potentially be giving back. But I'm not sure exactly what that role is supposed to be. So tell me a little bit about that.
I like that you said that because yes, we always look into the people that jackpot actually. Whether it's in kind or cash, I'm just
Right.
joking. Anyways, so yes, recently I ran for the position of social welfare secretary with the Association of Resident Doctors in my institution, LASUS, and to the glory of God, let me sound
Whoop, whoop.
very Nollywood,
Whoop,
you know.
whoop.
I've been functioning in that capacity since December 25th,
Mm,
and yeah, it's been going well. And 24th, sorry, and it's
mm,
been going well. So yes, one of the reasons why I went for this position was also, like I said, when I was in undergrad, I also had the opportunity of being the president of the African Student Association and also the recreational director for the International Student Organization. So both positions actually exposed me to leadership functions at the time. And in our little way, we were able to bring some changes. I remember one of the things that we were really driving at the time was how we could get the university to understand that international students needed some form of financial aid plan,
mm,
where we are able to pay school fees installmentally. And I think I can't remember now if it was after I'd left or if it was during my time. We were able to at least get management to see that and it was implemented.
mm.
And I also remember that the first African night that we ever did in Central Michigan was during my presidency, where we were able to showcase, yeah, different cultures from across the African continent. So, which was really, really nice. And I always had that in my head where I wanted to be in that position of leadership because I felt that I excelled at it
Mm.
and that with the little knowledge that I had, I could also share it with people around me. So moving back to Nigeria, of course, the opportunities came when I was in medical school, but I didn't go for it. Like I always felt like I was there for one purpose: do medical school, get out, and then in fact, at the time, it was get out and then move back home. By the way, I didn't say that. I forgot. Yes, it was move. Yeah, graduate and leave the country. But I mean,
Mm,
things changed. Going to residency program. When I go into residency program too, in the first few years, I'm like, no, I just want to do this, get out and leave.
mm.
But I'm still here. People are
Right.
living every day. I need to find out what exactly is going on. And sometimes you won't know the nitty gritty of things until you sort of, volunteer to serve. That's when
Mm,
you start to understand how certain things work. So the opportunity came again last year, and I wasn't going to pass up on it. So again, I feel the most important thing in any association is welfareism. It was a good place to start off. And fully, with the few of us that are left behind, we want to just ensure that we're well taken care of
right.
and that can also reduce the effect of brain drain in our institution. So I think for me, that was That was one of the driving factors. And yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. And again, like you said, it's also important to be able to liaise and communicate with people that have gone from the
Right.
system. I say, okay, oh, don't forget your association or support us or any way you can. Do you understand?
Mhm. Right.
Yeah. So,
I was going to say that you said welfareism is the most important part of an organization. What do you mean by that?
okay, so I think most people join associations because they want to know how they can benefit from that. And how you can benefit from it is through your welfare.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Because you want to know that me being a part of this means that I am taken care of.
Mm,
And that is what welfareism is.
okay.
I don't know if you get what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's what I meant when I said that.
Okay. That's a good point to look into, when one
But you
wants to
can you can
volunteer.
disagree,
No,
but it's
I
just
mean,
how. Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking about it. I mean, it makes sense because the idea is you can't pour out from an empty cup, basically, right? Like that's how we say it in
Yes,
the that's how we say
exactly.
it in the proverb or
If
whatever.
you think
I think
about it, even
right.
the churches that you decide you want to go to,
Hmm.
it's because you know that there's some form of comfort that you're going to get from attending. Yeah, so I mean, one of the reasons why you will choose to go to a certain place is because you know that you'll be well taken care of, right?
Right.
I mean, apart from the spirituality and all of that, you want to be comfortable. You want to know those people to a level will be like your family.
Right.
Uh, okay.
But yeah, no, thank you, sis. I think, you make a really good point about how we can't pour from an empty cup, basically, right? So the idea being that as we choose to serve,
Mm-hmm.
we should think of roles where, we are thinking about how we can make sure everybody that we're serving is doing well. I think that's the whole point of what you're trying to say, right? Like that everybody that we're serving, including ourselves, we're
Yeah,
doing well. So it's not just,
you're
okay,
looking
let's
out for
just
everyone.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, let's raise money, let's do this, let's do that. Okay, yes, but welfare, our health, like the conditions and the policies that are, in
Mm-hmm.
place or that we have right now, do they fit into making sure everybody is served well? I think is what you're trying to say, right? Did I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah. Correct.
Cool. No, thank you. This has been really great. I think just hearing again some of these just having a better understanding basically of how you made that decision because I've often struggled with should I have finished my PhD? Like, should I have maybe not pivoted a little earlier? Is it worth it to sometimes follow just that one dream? And I think you've kind of convinced me to also encourage people who feel like that's a major
Yep.
dream for them, right? To go with it. If that's something that you know deep within your heart will fulfill you, is what God has given you to do, then you should definitely go for it at all times. So I definitely appreciate your time here. And before you go, you get to ask me one question.
You already answered the question I was going to ask you.
No, no,
You
no,
just
no.
answered right now.
No, sorry, no. That would not work. You have to ask me one question. Any
Yeah,
question.
just one question, right?
Just one.
Okay. Are you happy?
Ooh, I feel like somebody has asked me this, and it's
Yeah,
always a good question
I hear
because,
you.
again, what happened in 2023 is different from what's happening in 2024. Granted, it's only January, but I will say yes. I think, some things you spoke about, like being lonely, like not knowing your neighbors. I don't know my neighbors. I'm in a new place again. So definitely don't know my neighbors. Are there some not having, folks around all the time, not having Nigerian food all the time? Some of those things make you like a little sad every so often, or just you're just missing it. But I think, for the most part, I'm grateful. God has been kind to not just me, but my family and my friends. And I'm always happy when my friends are doing okay. I think that's the one thing about me. When my family and my friends are doing okay, there's nothing happening in my life that can make me sad. When everybody else isn't doing too well, that's when things start to put me down a little bit. So yeah, I'm happy, and I know it's going to be a great 2024, and I'm excited for it. So thank you, thank God. But no, that was a good question. Thank you so much, sis.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, sis. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. Just like you would share with friends about a great book you read, don't forget to share this if you enjoyed it. Connect with us on IG and Twitter at TWWPcast and get details on the website at worldwithoutpeople.org. And hey, remember to make loving others the story of your life. Until next time, this is the world without people.